Alright, hear me out. This is So Says Mr. Thunder. I'm Mr. Thunder, and today is really, really early or really, really late, depending on how you look at it. So today is Tuesday, October the 3rd. However, it's 12:44 a.m., so the first is just ending. If this is your first time coming to the podcast, man, thank you for coming. Somehow you found your way here, and I'm so glad that you did. You came to spend some time with your boy. If you are returning, I thank you even more because that means you've been on me, on this podcast, on this journey with me. It's been a while. It's already October, man. That's crazy. Anyways, I have to apologize for getting off track. We all get off track a little bit sometimes. So, and I know one of my biggest things I talked about was being consistent. And I try my best, but life gets in the way sometimes, good or bad. You get thrown off track, but the key is to get back on track, right? That's the most important thing. So I just want to give a quick shout out to the guests that I've had on this podcast. The testimony that you gave about what this podcast has done for you allows me to receive feedback about what this podcast does for others through them. And thank you. Again, I can't say this enough. This ain't about me. It's about you. I've heard so much feedback about what this is, and everybody's perception of it is different. But the beauty in it is that it's doing exactly what it's supposed to. With that being said, what I want to talk about today is something that I learned. I think I'm pretty sure I've talked about, talking to my mom and seeking counsel with her. And, I called her one day a little while back and was kind of just bouncing some things off of her, just pertaining to life, me, my kids, all those good things. And, she, man, to be in the position she is right now, my mom had me when she was 15 years old, raised 3 beautiful kids, and did the best she could and learned what she did along the way. And it's brought her to a point where she's always been able to provide me with some wisdom. And she hit me with something, right? She hit me with something that she heard our pastor talking about in church. And she really kind of applied it to, her and how she operates. And it talks about why communication is often so difficult. Communication is the key, right? It's the key to unlocking those things that you want to know, those things that you need to know, and those things sometimes that you don't want to know. But communication is always the key. But it's often difficult when you're trying to get the message across or received quicker than it's supposed to be, based upon your own understanding. So this is why I say these things. It talks about when 2 people speak, there are 6 possible messages that can get through. I'll say that again. It talks about when 2 people speak, 6 possible messages can get through. So when you're having communication, you may be trying to say one thing, but 6 things are possibly being heard. What are those 6 things? 1 is what you mean to say. 2 is what you actually say. 3 is what the other person hears. 4 is what the other person thinks they hear. 5 is what the other person says about what you said. And 6 is what you think the other person said about what you said. I'll say that again. 1, what you mean to say. 2, what you actually say. 3, what the other person hears. 4, what the other person thinks they hear. 5, what the other person says about what you said. 6, what you think the other person said about what you said. And man, that hit me. That hit me so deep because I think I sometimes expect certain things to go in a way that is not supposed to be. Y'all gotta excuse me. I'm over here messing up on YouTube. Anyways, I had to basically put this on my daughter, right? My daughter is probably one of the most strong individuals that I know. And she's just now, when I say just now, getting into her groove of life. I'd like to think that communicating with her is really difficult, right? I always say it's difficult. Why don't she listen to me? Why don't she understand what I'm saying? Why is it so hard for her to pick up on the things that I'm trying to give her? And when my mom gave me this, I realized that in each one of these phases, I was expecting her to get a different message. So when what I meant to say was basically me trying to get the other person to hear what I'm saying, not what I'm actually saying, but then responding to what they think they hear and then what I think the other person said in response to what I said. So it goes so many ways, right? It gets confusing. And I think you got to take a moment to understand where in those lines of communication do you land? Are you really saying what you mean to say? Did you actually say what you were saying? Did the other person hear what you were saying? Did the other person think they heard something else? What the other person said about what you said, and then what you think they said about what you said. And I find this very, very amusing because when I talk to my daughter, she always says, well, you said, or what I meant to say was, or well, you don't understand when I was saying what I was saying. And we just go back and forth. We were going in a circle, right? And I'm just beating myself over the head when I have to understand that in this process of communication, you have to just stick with whatever message you are trying to get through. Don't bounce around from 1 to 4, from 4 to 2, from 3 to 5. Just learn how to get your message out and let the other person process what it is, right? And then follow up the communication. So eventually you both land on what the message is supposed to be as it's intended. So my example is I talk to my daughter about making decisions and me teaching her a lesson and how to do so. Without going into detail, it wasn't received very well. And we both walked away from it kind of fucked up. And it took for me to think about what these 6 messages that I was trying to get across to her and replay what I was actually saying. And I realized that in my head, I'm saying what I mean to say, and what she's hearing is what she thinks I'm trying to say. And as she's responding, I'm trying to say what I meant to say, and it was just all confusing. So I thought about that and I called her back and I told her, I said, Sky, this is what I meant to say. And I need you to actually hear what I'm saying so that you understand that the whole point of this conversation is meant. It's meant. And again, walked away from it, heard what she had to say, let her process it, and then came back. And we had a conversation the other day where she sat down and she said, Dad, I understand what you meant to say. And I actually heard what you meant to say. And she just kind of gave me her feedback. And I had to allow her, without giving any interruption, to get her message across. And her message was what the other person hears. And I had to listen to it. And I said, okay, I understand now. When I mean to say something, you hear something else. So I have to learn how to get you on the same page. And also I have to learn how to be put in my place when you're trying to deliver a message, right? And that is something that I really think that I have been working on by bettering myself in this podcast, right? Long story short, I'm always trying to perfect what I got going on. And if I don't keep perfecting it and learning the things that I need to learn and be able to communicate so that I can get the message across, I'm not doing my job. Do you hear you? That is the message. Sometimes you need to understand when you're trying to communicate, if you don't hear what the other person hears, then nobody's going to understand what you mean to say. Have you had a moment where you just couldn't figure it out, where it was hard? You was like, man, why is this not making any sense? And it just drives you crazy and there is no positive results. Or it's one-sided. Or it just doesn't go anywhere. Have you had that moment where you had to say, do you hear yourself? Do you hear what you just said? And can you repeat it? Do you mean it? And does the other person understand what you said? Because they heard you. Because now you heard you. Do you hear you? That's the message. I know that was kind of long, but that was kind of me. And that helped me. And it's going to help somebody else because it's powerful. I believe it came from God. I believe that God is very, very methodical in the way that he chooses to communicate. And let's do more of it. I thank you for being part of this. I thank you for being here listening to me. And again, if you want to be a part of this podcast, go ahead and like the Instagram page, So Says Mr. Thunder. I can be Googled at So Says Mr. Thunder. I'm Mr. Thunder. And this is I'm sorry, this is So Says Mr. Thunder. I am Mr. Thunder. I'm sorry, I'm a little excited, but I'm a Native American and ain't a damn thing you can do about it. I appreciate you for coming by. If you want to get on here, leave me a message, reach out to me, and just know I want to hear 10 minutes of your best. And can you say what you mean to say in 10 minutes? Give it to me. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you. You can find me on all podcast platforms: Google, Apple, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify. There's a couple more that just popped up through this beautiful program that I'm using, Spreaker. And again, I can't thank you enough. I appreciate you. Again, peace. Until next time, I holla.